Hello all, Cameron Gunnoe with Loot Press here with local author, bail bondsman, artist, combat veteran, and candidate for Raleigh County Magistrate District 1, Gary Vaughan. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
You're obviously known as a man who wears many hats. What was the first sort of passion or venture that you pursued that became a significant part of your life?
Probably art. I've been drawing and painting since I was a small child, so that's no matter what else I've done, that's always been a part of it.
And of course, you're running for magistrate the upcoming election, May 14th. Is this your first foray into the political realm, and what motivated this run?
I ran 4 years ago as a write-in, as a last-minute thing, but this is my first real dive into it. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it this time or not until I started hearing names about who was going to file and who was going to run, and the county means a lot to me, so I felt like it was time for somebody with some experience to get in.
That kind of leads to my next question. We both participated in the Beckley Raleigh County Chamber of Commerce's Future Forward event last week, though unfortunately we didn't actually get to question the Magistrate candidates. But based on that presentation and the participants there, how do you feel about this candidate pool and how things are voting for the city of Beckley right now? Not just in the magistrate race, but across the board. Are you hopeful? Are we in trouble? Is there anyone who piqued your interest?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I'm hopeful or if we're in trouble. This race is very difficult to read. I've been involved in this community a long time, and usually there's 2 or 3 people to pick from across the board, but there are so many candidates with so many views this time that I'd be afraid to say. I am hopeful, and I'm supporting everyone in the other races who I think are out to have the community first. That's the most important thing. People have to be careful and not vote for their friends and neighbors, as they need to vote for who knows what's going on and who's got this community first.
Sure. Or at least not vote for your friends and neighbors just based on the fact that they're your friends and neighbors.
That's what I mean, absolutely.
In your opinion, what are some of the biggest problems currently facing the city?
Well, one of the things right now currently is where the mayor attempted to designate us as a recovery city without talking to anyone. I'm not taking a side on the recovery city designation at all. What I am taking a side on is we needed to know that. People needed to know that. And it happened behind our backs. And then when there was an uprising sort of on the internet and people showing up, they got angry a little bit about it and decided to see it later because of the way it was viewed. That wouldn't have happened if they hadn't backdoored us on that. Just let the city know. These are important things. Anything important, the people need to know about it, in my opinion. You don't need to say, hey, look what we've done. Let's talk about what we want to do.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people, it seems to be a transparency issue. And that's the case with a lot of these happenings in city council. It's like the city manager deal. A lot of people who were for the idea of city manager are up in arms now just because of how the process happened. And people feel like they didn't have a say.
Absolutely. Transparency is, and that goes for the city, the county, the state, all the way up to governor. That's very important. National right now, it's a problem. No matter what side you're on of the politics right now, transparency is an issue on both sides.
Oh, for sure. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your art and your involvement in that community. You've been a big proponent of some individuals and organizations promoting the arts on the local level. How do you think we could go about carving out a substantial place for the arts in Southern West Virginia and maybe get regular folks to take an interest, appreciate it, maybe take it a little more seriously?
That is a complicated question. It's something that folks like me and everyone else involved in the art community talk about every day. One of the problems here is foot traffic downtown. We just don't have it. There are grants out there. We could rent buildings. We could put artists in place and even give them places to work. But if there's no foot traffic, it just doesn't work. So that's what we're working on that.
A big downtown issue, just for me personally, is parking. I struggle to find parking every day. Every time I'm at court, I'm like walking blocks and blocks. And, a few people mentioned that during the forum, but that's kind of a complex thing too. There's a garage down there, but
there is. From what I understand, part of the deal on the financing of the garage was dependent on the Greyhound bus station being in the garage and downstairs. And I'm downtown every day. I'm in the courthouse. I'm in the magistrate court every single day. And I walk that 3 blocks from my office to the courthouse sometimes 5-6 times a day. And what I hear most from people is parking, like you said, and being apprehended by someone who wants $1 or a cigarette. It all comes back to that parking building and that Greyhound station in that parking building.
The panhandling has been one that people have been kind of up in arms about as well, but that's a national thing. Like, that's a very complex issue to try to solve because there's a lot of avenues to it. So I don't know that there is like a distinct solution for that one.
There's not in our community, not right now, and I'll tell you why. The first argument you hear from everybody is, nobody asks you for $1 in Fayetteville. Nobody asks you for $1 in Lewisburg. Princeton, same way. But Princeton, Lewisburg, Fayetteville don't have a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen. And that's what brings them here. And as long as that's downtown, those people are going to be downtown. And there are people that certainly need help. There are a lot of them. A lot of people need help, and I'm for helping those people. I happen to have an odd point of view, or a unique point of view. I know most of these people. Most of these people have an income. They have a home. They're just out there because you can buy their beer and their drugs this month. They don't have to. The problem is the public don't know the difference. So when they see someone say, don't give that guy money, they automatically respond with, don't be so mean. And you need to understand who these people are before you give them $1. The public can't do that. People in the system, the police officers, we understand the difference.
Right. Being active sort of in that community, out and about in the downtown area, working down there, do you feel that makes you uniquely qualified for not just magistrate, but just a position in office, and that you have that perspective, I guess, and those relationships, those connections, and you can see in a more defined perspective what needs done, those sort of issues?
That's a very important point. Not just working, living downtown all these years gives me that perspective, but being a bail bondsman for 20 plus years, I've lost track.
Right.
I have supervised the release and the court appearances of countless people. I have an understanding of who, like I said, same with the panhandlers. There are criminals out there who deserve a second chance. There really are. There's many of them. And there's people that deserve no more chances. There's people that need to be in the jail. And like they say, there's people that need to be under the jail. You work with them and you understand them and you actually personally know them all these years. Of course I have a unique perspective. And some of the other candidates in all the other districts, they're fantastic people, I'm sure. And there are people from all over the walks of life, all over the place as far as jobs. But working with these criminals and understanding them, chasing them down, I've chased them all over the country, brought them back here to jail. No one can have an understanding of what we need like someone in my position.
Right. How important is it to sort of bridge that connection and have a real man of the people situation who knows what people need? Is that possible?
It's not possible with most of the candidates, and not just here locally, but so many people get into, I don't really want to say politics. I'm certainly not a politician. I'm just running for a position that I understand. And that sadly makes me a politician. I hate to be defined as that, but I've been to Charleston, I've went down there, I've met with them, I've lobbied, I've argued with them over laws. Most people don't get to do that, and it's a privilege to do that. And if anyone gets that chance, I recommend they give it a shot, they go do it. Because the first thing people argue about and complain about, and you see on social media and even walking around the streets is, well, that's not right, that magistrate did this, and that's not right. Well, it was within the law, and that's what he could do. He did what he could. If you have a problem with that, you need to go a little further than the county. You got to move up the ladder. And again, I'm someone that has an understanding of that. And it's difficult to explain to someone why so-and-so only got 2 years in jail. Well, it's because that's what we were allowed to give them, right? And that's not on us.
It seems like regardless of like whatever anyone's feelings on Donald Trump are, his presidency kind of changed the game in terms of like it opened the doors for non-politicians to really get involved. And you might argue that's a positive thing.
I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Right.
I see that from both directions. I think that anyone who has an understanding of the position they're running for should certainly be a qualified candidate. They should certainly get consideration.
That's a good point, because there was a lot of like The Rock for president, Oprah for president, and no more like, well, no one's saying it, but I don't believe in electing individuals based on not quite notoriety, status, I guess, celebrity status, but you should bring a certain amount of qualifications to the table for the job at hand.
That's a problem locally as well as nationally, and right now what we're talking about is our local problems, and you've seen that out at the Future Forward event. People show up, they're running for office because they happen to have the money to file, or because they say, I know a lot of people. And that's fantastic that you know a lot of people, and you may be a fantastic person, but you need to understand what this position is about. There's 6 divisions for magistrate, and there are so few candidates who actually know, I'll say it, who know anything about the job. There are candidates that literally called the courthouse and asked, hey, what does a magistrate do? What's their hours? What's their pay? And filed for magistrate. That's Raleigh County can't afford that.
Right.
We just can't afford to take a step backwards. We cannot.
We have a lot of folks who are familiar with their positions they're running for. Experience is important. I'll start day one, and that is an advantage over someone with no clue.
Absolutely. And as a magistrate, the number one thing you deal with is criminals, and I'm opposed them. There's some police officers running for other divisions. They're not running against me. They're not my opponents, but those guys know these people firsthand. And some of them are running against each other, and that's a tough choice when you've got police officers running. But I think that's the most important thing is those of us candidates who actually know. We know these people. When I see one of these people in front of me, I'm not going to be guessing what their deal is because I've been working at Walmart for 22 years. I know this guy. I've either arrested him, I've dealt with him, I know. And that goes back to what we talked to earlier. People that deserve second chances and people that don't. Victims out there can't afford for a magistrate not to understand and know this.
Yeah. The people who do need advocated for, that harms them.
I tell people regularly, if you go home today and your front door's kicked in and your big screen's stolen and your laptop's stolen, you're going to be angry enough. But when you check your neighbor's doorbell cam and you see the guy that done it was arrested 3 weeks ago for the exact same thing, how angry are you going to be?
Right.
That guy shouldn't have been kicking your door in today. That guy should have been in jail. And that's what you run into. Only experience can get you there.
100%. I think a lot of people are experiencing that sort of thing, and they're not feeling heard, not feeling represented. Excuse me. I know I won't say things, but personally, I know some folks who've been the victim of like break-ins, a series of break-ins. They keep coming back, and they take it away, come back a week later, and it's like, what are we doing about this? People are frustrated.
The police officers are frustrated. It's not just victims. And I'm glad you brought that up because people will say, well, that cop didn't. You got to stop there. It's not that cop, that officer, or however they phrase it. There's only so much that the state will do to these people, and that's a problem. And again, sometimes that's not a magistrate's problem. Sometimes that's a state problem. Sometimes these magistrates do everything they can do, but police officers will say, that guy beat me home. You know, they've arrested people who've got home before their shift was over, and that's unacceptable.
And I want to talk a bit about writing. You're an author. You've been had multiple books published, written in local media. Have you always been a writer, and how did you get started in that realm?
I wrote some in high school. I didn't really have time, or I don't think I focused enough of it in high school, but my teachers told me that I needed to, and I just didn't. And recently, one of the problems with our community, I thought, was that people didn't know what was going on. Everywhere you go, somebody tells you, and everybody listening is going to have heard this, there's nothing to do in Beckley. There's nothing to do. That is not true. There is plenty to do in Beckley. So I got with the editor of the Raleigh Register-Herald, and we started an article on what there was to do, and it really made a difference. People were coming to events saying, I didn't even know about this until we read about it. And a lot of things you'll see people see on Facebook on Monday going, where was you at Saturday at that event? We didn't even know about that. We're trying to change that. And I let people know that there are businesses out there who bring live music, art shows, you name it, it's out there. You just got to understand where it is and when it's going to be.
For sure, that was one thing. Pre-media, before coming into journalism, I was one of those people like, there's nothing going on ever, there's nothing to do. And once you get the right information, there's stuff everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Whether you're into hearing live music, looking at an art show, the things that I like to do, whether you just want to go out and have a beer and get a special on some wings somewhere, there's something going on. Every night of the week, there's something. From Fayetteville to Princeton, anywhere you can drive to, there's some of the best barbecue, some of the best hot dogs. You just got to know where to go. And we just wanted people to understand that. And that's beneficial to not just you as a reader, but the businesses, local businesses. We didn't write a single article about a chain. It was always local. Try to keep things local and support this community.
That's where you find the best stuff.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, I love some Taco Bell too, but it's the hidden gems. You're like, wow, I don't know about this place. And it seems like there's so much about here. It's not that there isn't anything here. It's getting the information out and getting people out to it.
That's the thing. If people knew all of the things going on here, these events would be packed.
Right.
And the more you let people know, the more people show up. And we proved that. It was just by the people coming out and saying, thank goodness that was in the paper, or we wouldn't even have about this.
Sure. For those voters who may be aware of you, but maybe not know you, I feel like it's fair to say you've been known as to have some strong opinions, not mince words a lot of the time. Do you believe there are any misconceptions that folks might have?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm certain there are misconceptions because being a bail bondsman and having arrested so many people who have fled the jurisdiction, you automatically make enemies of their families. And that's because of the whole nationwide culture of people not taking responsibility. You know, if you miss court and I got to come to your house and take you to jail and you fight me and I have to fight you and it's a big mess, and now your parents are mad at me, your girlfriend's mad at me, that's not my fault. It's just not, and I'm a bad person for that. But the victims come first.
Right.
They always have. Even as a bail bondsman, the victims have come first to me. If you miss court, I will come and get you, and I will put you in jail. Period.
Accountability, it seems like, is such a sweeping issue in like every facet of American culture. Nobody wants to be accountable for anything. Everybody just wants to do what they want to do, and somebody else can pay the tab on it, so to speak.
Soft on crime. It breeds that. You know, if you're shoplifting tonight and you go to jail and you're out tomorrow for nothing or $50, and you're shoplifting tomorrow night and the same thing happens to you, why should you be accountable?
Right.
I mean, think about it. Why should you? Some of these people live rough, and the jail's not a big problem to them. They'll just go, they'll get out tomorrow, and they'll do it again. And until we stop smacking people on the hand, and that's local and that's nationwide, something's got to be done. Victims should come first. I know the jail bill is a problem here, and we're not a rich county, and it's a lot of times paying the jail bill takes precedence over a lot, but it shouldn't take precedence over victims, ever.
Right. And I think I've about made it down my list here. Are there any final thoughts you want to leave voters and readers with?
No, well, maybe it's kind of a bold statement, maybe. But if you don't know me, and you don't know who you're voting for, if you know a police officer, ask them who they're supporting. If you know someone in the prosecutor's office or someone who's a criminal attorney or works for a criminal attorney, ask them who they're voting for. If you know someone in the court system, ask them who they're voting for in District 1. They're going to tell you. I'm the only one with experience in District 1, period. Ask people who know. If you don't know, and that's not just for my district, the other districts, the other offices, the mayor offices. If you don't know and you're not really sure, ask somebody that's involved in the community. Ask somebody who knows.
Fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Gary Vaughan. Gary Vaughan, candidate for Raleigh County Magistrate District 1. Where can folks go to find out more?
They can go to Facebook, Gary Vaughan for Raleigh County Magistrate. It's an open page, and I will answer any questions I get. I will. I won't ignore them. I'll answer it.